Well, hey, my friend, I'm so glad that you're with me today. Listen, I love answering questions from my podcast listeners, from people on Facebook, people on our email list. And I got a couple of questions the other day. Actually, they were kind of the same question. One was from Erica and one was from Matt. Matt's actually a filmmaker. Erica is actually a teacher, single mom, and both of them, Matt's kind of working a job over here as a filmmaker, doing films for other people. Erica is a visual artist. She's doing her work as a hobby, but would love to get out of teaching and kind of transition. And so the question is, how do I do that? How do I get from doing this as a hobby to actually something that I can start to make a living with? Well, when I talk about this, especially in the mentoring program and as I teach in it in my books and that sort of thing, I talk about it in the concept, you may have heard me say this before, I call it the bridge. It's kind of like if you're here and you're trying to get to over here, from one place to the other, the in-between season is a bridge. And I find that the Lord will begin to make a bridge for us as we're faithful with little and ruler over much. All right, that's a kingdom principle. Be fruitful first and then multiply. A lot of times people are looking for multiplication in their life before they have fruitfulness. And so I want to give you 5 things today that'll really help you be fruitful in the season that you're in, and then as you cultivate that and steward that, that's going to give you really the groundwork, the foundation, if you will, to really start to be, to multiply in your life and in your art. All right, and over time, you'll begin to see that bridge, become defined, and you'll be able to walk across that from where you are now into the season that you really want to be in, whatever that looks like. All right. So the first thing I would say, if you are wanting to go from hobbyist or emerging artist into being a part-time, full-time artist, doing it more seriously, the first thing you got to have is, number one, you've got to be creating a body of work, all right, at a level of mastery, all right? That is super duper important, all right? Because nobody wants subpar work. Nobody wants, beginner's work that's going to be, when you're expecting it to be paid really well for it. You've got to be developing your skills and you've got to be developing your artistic work in a way that's going to be out of excellence, in a place that is, there's a demonstrable mastery in what you're doing. I think about me, I spent 15 years doing my baskets, just as a hobby. But what was that doing? It was building skill. It was building a unique voice. And by the time I was ready to actually take it into part-time and then full-time business, I had done the work. But that is really, really important. You can't just kind of skip by that. I think so many people have taken, the bait of this thing that, every hobby that you have has got to somehow kind of turn into a side hustle, that you have to start making money with it. And I'm like, well, maybe it can, but the main thing that you need to think about is am I developing my skills? Am I developing my mastery? Is my unique voice being developed? That is really, really huge, because if you don't have marketable skills, all right, if you don't have a marketable body of work, if you're not starting from that place, then it's going to be really difficult to build anything else on substandard work and work that's not really fabulous and really unique. That's just kind of the starting point for all of us. All right. Number 2, I would say you've got to have a marketing engine that is regularly bringing you clients. All right. That's what I talk about a lot when I'm talking about building your brand and your business. You may have heard me say this before on the podcast or in a book or whatever, but your business is like a vehicle. It's what takes your work to market. And so if you don't have a business and a marketing engine that is working to help you not only get clients, but also identify clients on a regular basis through your social media, through your website, through email marketing, through doing launches, through teaching and interviews and all the things that you have to be doing in what I call a Parthenon model of marketing, then you're not going to have what you need to actually step, again, from where you are now just as a hobbyist into what you want to do as a part-time or full-time artist. So building that marketing engine is really, really key. All right. Number 3, then, you've got to have the time and the expertise and the space to be able to create work. So many artists have this kind of, fluffy kind of dream out there of, I want to be an artist. And I'm like, well, tell me about your studio practice. Well, they don't have one. If you don't have a studio practice, if you don't have a designated space, and I'm not saying it's got to be 3,000 square foot, loft studio in New York City. I'm just saying it's got to be somewhere. I mean, for me, I made baskets on my back porch for years. And then when we moved to Asheville, I finally graduated to a shed. And I was like, I got a shed. I mean, this was so awesome. All right. But I was, again, faithful with little, ruler over much. That's how you grow in the kingdom. And so you've got to make sure in your schedule and in your space allocation that you're giving yourself the time and the space to really focus on your work. Again, otherwise it just kind of gets pushed to the background, and it doesn't get, the priority of what you're trying to do doesn't get reflected in how you've allocated your time and space. So you got to have the time and the space, and again, that expertise, that level of mastery in creating work. All right. Number 4, this is huge, and this is something that grows, again, as you nurture it, all right, but a demonstrated revenue stream. If you're wanting, I hear people all the time, I want to quit my job and be an artist. Well, okay, hold on. We can get you there, and we do that all the time in the mentoring program, but the thing you got to watch is that do you have you developed and are you nurturing a demonstrated revenue stream in your life? I know for me, when I started getting serious about doing my work, I started adding shows to my schedule, adding some galleries, adding wholesale accounts. That allowed me to begin to build a demonstrated regular revenue stream. And as I began to do more and my reputation began to grow, that grew to a place then where eventually I could get a studio, where eventually I could quit my job, where eventually I could build a practice, an art practice that would bring in a regular stream of income over the course of a year. And that's how I had, the ability to be able to step out and do that. I'm also a big believer in multiple streams of income, which I practice myself and also encourage artists to do. But whatever it is, if you're going to step out as an artist financially, you've got to have and build. All right, nobody's going to give it to you. You got to build a demonstrated revenue stream for yourself. All right, the last point, number 5, is really having a clear vision for what season of life that you're in. And then in that context, what do you want an art business to do for you? Just for example, when I started, growing my art business, I had come out of just doing it really part-time, kind of, not even part-time for a lot of years. I'd do a couple of shows a year. I'd make my Christmas money. I'm like, that was great. That's all I expected of it because I had, revenue coming in from other sources, other jobs that I was working and that sort of thing. But as I transitioned, I started saying, hey, I want this to be my full-time job. I believe God's called me to be a full-time artist. And so the expectations of the level of activity, the amount of revenue I needed to bring in, the amount of marketing that I needed to do, the shows, the galleries, all of that helped to give me a context of how I needed to create and set up, my creative life. As opposed to maybe somebody that's like, you know what? I love art, but I'm retired and I've got a great retirement coming in. And if I could make an extra $1,000 a month and give it to missions at my church, to bless them, that would be awesome. Or if I could supplement my income in some way by doing 2 or 3 shows a year, that would be awesome because I love working my job. Whatever it is, it's just so important that you not compare your level of perceived success with what somebody else is doing. You define that. You decide with the Lord, with your loved ones, what is it that you want your art business to look like? And then as you're creating the bridge, that is, how to get from here to there, you're doing it in a way that really serves you the best. All right? Well, listen, as you're doing this, remember God's with you the whole way. The Holy Spirit promises to be our guide, our comforter, our friend. He's the one that leads us into all wisdom. And He's got secrets for you that will absolutely blow your mind. He's got divine appointments for you, intersection points, all along that journey that are going to take the loaves and fishes, if you will, that you bring to the journey and absolutely exponentially multiply them beyond anything that you could ask or imagine. That's life in the kingdom. That's the kingdom working normally, and we can absolutely expect that as God's sons and daughters. All right? Hey, I love you very much. If this is encouraging to you, be sure to hit the share button. And until next time, remember, you were created to thrive. Bye.